Taiwan's leadership election has taken a turn as Taipei's Mayor Ko Wen-je has formed a new political party. But tensions across the strait caused by Tsai Ing-wen's separatist attempts and U.S. intervention have made the situation more complex. How will an emerging political party muddy politics in the leadership election in Taiwan? Where are cross-strait relations heading? And how will the mainland react to U.S. interference in Taiwan affairs? To discuss these many other issues related to Taiwan's political landscape and more, I'm very happy to be joined in the Beijing studio by Huang Jing, Dean of the Institute of International and Regional Studies at Beijing Language and Culture University. We will also speak to Richard Weiss, a security expert at Wikistrat Global Consultancy in Washington, D.C., and Joanna Lei, a managing director of Azul Management Limited in Taipei via satellite. That's our topic. This is Dialogue. I'm Yang Ray. Professor Huang, are you surprised that Mr. Ko Wen-je is able to form his own political party ahead of the elections?
No, not at all, because Ko Wen-je, first of all, have nothing to lose by forming his own party. Financially, he'll gain, politically, he'll gain, and I think perhaps, in my view, that's the only way to keep his political life going. In this regard, I'm not surprised at all.
What's the chance for him to win the general election next year?
I think it'd be a long shot, because Ko is in a very, in my view, awkward situation with is sandwiched by the blue and the green, and it is very difficult for him to
that might be a benefit.
that.
That might be a promise for his campaign success.
No, given Taiwan's politics is more and more kind of polarized, and there's, in my view, of course, there's still someone in the middle who, and Ko is a very charming person. He has a lot of personal followings, but that doesn't mean that he can win, because after all, the voters that will go with him, in my view, are very limited and not enough to win a major campaign like this.
Thank you very much. Let me go to Joanna Lei first of all for her thoughts on the latest change in the Taiwan political landscape. Joanna, does the formation of a new party by Mr. Ko Wen-je, Mayor of Taipei, mean automatically that he's able to get support from the swing votes in between the blue and the green camps?
Well, it is very clear that Ko Wen-je's major supporters tend to be young, urban, and pretty much in the northern region. He has a very unique position to attract very young voters, which is still a riddle to all of us. But there are two major background information I think we should put into the discussion. One is Taiwan passed a party law which says all major political organizations, structures, and so on and so forth will have to be transformed into a particular form of party participating in election. That party law was passed in December 2017. Therefore, Ko Wen-je seized the opportunity, make sure that he has 100 or more members, and formed a new party based on the new party law, which is a very new legal regime. Secondly, if he wanted to be a candidate, he needs to be endorsed by 1.5% of the total electorate. So he still needs about 270,000 voters. But once he formed a party, if the party wins more than 5% vote this time, then next time they can automatically nominate a presidential candidate.
Thank you very much. Now, Richard, what do you make of the latest change in the Taiwan political ecosystem?
It's a sign of a vibrant democracy. That's how it's seen in Washington. You've got different people representing contrasting personalities, contrasting parties, and you cannot determine the winner in advance. So by definition, it's a functioning multi-party democracy, and that of course means it has all the mess that most democracies have, in the sense it can get very political and so on, but basically seen as healthy.
There's a little doubt, apparently, Richard, that all major politicians from the island will have to go to Washington hat in hand to consult lawmakers as well as those in the White House for their opinions on the cross-strait relations. Now, this time around, do you think with a big chance for Ko Wen-je to run for the leadership in Taiwan next year, will he have to consult Washington leadership, be they lawmakers in the D.C. or probably senior aides to President Trump in the White House?
Right. Now, obviously, none of these people need permission from people in Washington to run. But since the U.S. is an important partner of Taiwan, then you would think that they or their representatives would do some, as you said, some kind of trip or engagement with people in D.C. That would include the administration, Congress, business, think tanks, and so on. And normally, people participate in these. There'll be some kind of public sessions, some kind of private sessions. There'll be tough questions, but also good questions. I mean, people are very concerned now about how the China-U.S. trade and economic deterioration could impact the island. And there's concerns about possible confrontation to include Taiwan as other issues. So I imagine that they will get a lot of attention when they come here.
Thank you so much. Professor Huang, the Chinese Kuomintang Party, or KMT, nominated Mayor Ko from Kaohsiung as their own most authoritative candidate for the election next year. And now we see the rising political star Ko Wen-je. How do you see the political landscape in Taiwan? Do you think Ko Wen-je will pose a serious threat to Han Kuo-yu? And what are the chances for Guo Taiming, the political rival within KMT of Mr. Han Kuo-yu, to forge an alliance of expediency with Ko Wen-je so that the two may make a very good partnership and may stand a good chance of winning the general campaign?
First, this is a very untraditional campaign. Both Han Kuo-yu and Ko Wen-je are not the kind of politicians we have seen before. Both of them run a very unconditional, very down-to-earth campaign. Both of them has a lot of personal followings, very charming political leaders. And both of them, of course, have some shortcomings. And about Guo Taiming, of course, Guo Taiming has a lot of strengths.
By the way, he's the richest guy, the business tycoon in Taiwan.
He has a lot of money, has a deep pocket for sure. And he also has a very strong following, especially among the Pan Blues, because he's seen as not only very sophisticated economically, but also have some political connections to both China and mainland China and the United States. But I would think that if he decided to go along with Ko Wen-je, he's making a big gamble for not only for his political life, but also to a certain degree for his reputation in Taiwan. Because first and foremost, people see him as kind of going for this position for his personal interests.
And he has to give up the membership of the KMT.
Exactly.
Price he has to pay.
And he is totally discredited himself politically. And also, he'll be seen as a person that is with too much ego. And that is not very good. So I think it is, of course, up to Guo Taiming himself to make a decision. I think he's struggling right now because his most strengthful part is also the weakest part. That is, he has a very strong resolve, determined to do things if he wants. But he also has a big ego that also undercut his position. But I would argue that I truly believe in that if he decided to join the Ko Wen-je, it will not do him much good.
Joanna, what's the latest with Tsai Ing-wen after she was able to oust Leitinger from the race within the DPP?
Well, certainly she has mobilized the entire DPP behind her. After her trip to the United States, she has made very strong gestures in terms of aligning herself with the United States. And that addressed to your earlier question. When Ko Wen-je went to the United States last time, he came back very disappointed. He felt that there's a very strong and stern support towards Tsai Ing-wen and actually didn't give her any questioning and give Ko Wen-je very little room to maneuver. And I just want to add what Professor Huang said. If you look at the history, when you have candidates coming across from two sides of the aisle, one is in 2000, another in 2016, or close to from the two sides of the aisle, they pretty much get less than 10% of the vote. Ko Wen-je himself currently get around 20%, but adding him and Guo Taiming from both sides, they may also be defected by their own supporters, feeling that they're betrayed by their chosen candidates. So when you have people from both sides of the aisle trying to come together, it may not be 1 + 1 = 2. It could be less than 2.
So Tsai Ing-wen, do you think Tsai Ing-wen will be able to benefit from the latest wrangling between the three political forces, KMT, DPP, and the TPP?
Well, certainly the only thing that really, really worries us is for Tsai Ing-wen to collaborate with Ko Wen-je. Since Ko Wen-je is forming a new party, that possible alliance is less likely. However, in Taiwan's election, there is a proviso that you can have two parties jointly support a ticket, that you have the major and the secondary candidates from two different parties, which was Lian Zhan and Song Chu-yu's case. So we are not ruling out the possibility of Tsai Ing-wen and Ko Wen-je, but recently Ko Wen-je has been accusing Tsai Ing-wen with all kinds of words. So I think that possible threat is less likely to happen.
Joanna, let me ask you, where is the line for Ko Wen-je regarding the cross-strait relations?
I think he is extremely pragmatic and opportunistic. Before he became a politician, he openly said he's deep green. He's strong supporter of Taiwan independence. But after he became a politician, since he started running for Taipei and at the Taipei and Shanghai two-city conferences, he has shown a very broad and wide opening and friendly gesture towards mainland China. So I think he's extremely pragmatic and very opportunistic.
Thank you very much. Richard, you've been listening. What do you make of the optimistic nature of Ko Wen-je's political choice regarding the cross-strait relations?
I mean, the thing is, I would phrase it this way: that there are two big factors at work. First, as you said, as we discussed, the domestic politics and how the mainland was going to view the different candidates and how the candidates will position themselves towards the mainland to influence the election and so on. But then there's this larger regional context in which Taiwan is being buffeted by developments in Washington and Hong Kong and the elsewhere in the region. And so it's hard to know how much the latter is going to affect the former. So, I mean, for an example, if the U.S.-China relationship continues to deteriorate, that could make it more difficult for the Taiwanese politicians. They may have feel less comfortable in taking stances that would upset one side or the other, but they may also see opportunities for leverage to try and take advantage of the competition to try and make gains from both sides. So this gets very complicated, and it's really hard to know in advance which way the directions are going to go.
Thank you very much, Professor Huang. Late last year, there was actually a Tale of Two Cities. Is actually about a two-city forum, and Ko Wen-je attended the forum. Instead of talking about one country, two systems, or the one country consensus, he talked about members of the same family, Liang An Yi Jia Qin.
Yep.
He avoided skillfully the mention of traditional understanding about the cross-strait relations between KMT and the CECP in the Chinese mainland. What do you think of his political sophistication?
I think I'm actually kind of surprised by his pragmatic approach. Just like Joanna said, he's extremely pragmatic and also optimistic in that regard. And when he said the two sides are the same family, he actually, I think, already implied there is only one China. Because two sides of what? Two sides of the Taiwan Strait. And that is, if two sides are the same family, then of course both sides on the Taiwan Strait claim that there is only one China, at least from KMT's
There's a
point
lot
of
of ambiguity.
Yeah, a lot of ambiguity, but he seems to get what, in my words, get the message across without crossing the line. That's very, very politically skillful, and I think for that I gave him credit. But however, if he really wants to run for the leadership of Taiwan, he will have to face this issue very word by word. In other words, he can no longer play the game of words. He has to see it. Is it one China or one China, one Taiwan, so on and so forth. And he has to say it. And in that regard, given the current situation cross-strait, especially in the week of U.S.-China competition, strategic competition, I think he's going to follow at least what the Pan Blue candidate has said, that Guo Taiming and Han Kuo-yu, both of them has said some tough words towards mainland China, because after all, the voters are coming from the island, not from this strait of Taiwan Strait.
Look at the economic underperformance of Taiwan. For this particular reason, Tsai Ing-wen lost much of the support. But due to the latest arrest in Hong Kong, Tsai Ing-wen seemed to be able to win back some of the voters. But let's look at the lackluster performance of the Taiwanese economy. What are the policy proposals of Ko Wen-je to show off the Taiwanese development?
I think now at this moment, everyone with normal minds in Taiwan realize that you cannot do without a strong economic relationship with mainland. After all, politics is a game that you have to be resourceful to be able to play. After Chen Shui-bian's presidency in 2008, at that time people talk about 肚子扁扁要选阿扁, means even if we are hungry, we still vote for 阿扁, but now they realize that's not realistic. That's why Han Kuo-yu can win so much, can win so big. Even DPP realized the economy is a way to go, just like Bill Clinton said many years ago, its economy is stupid. In that regard, I think if Ko Wen-je wants to run, he will have to run on two lines. Number one, he wants a stable relationship with mainland China. That is, after all, as he said, two sides of the same family. Why? Because he realized the second point, that only with a good relationship with mainland China can Taiwan's economy keep going, because the fact, the irrevocable trend or fact is that Taiwan's economy has become more and more dependent on mainland China. And Tsai Ing-wen has tried everything possible, tried to turn that around, and she failed. And I think she has failed miserably.
I wonder, Joanna, if many in Taiwan have been taken aback by the latest policy announcement of the Chinese mainland, that individual travelers from the mainland will be stopped from going to Taiwan, and they have to join group tours. Will that deliver a heavy blow to Tsai Ing-wen's, the economy under Tsai Ing-wen's administration in Taiwan? And do you think this has a direct relationship with political chaos in Hong Kong?
Well, I think this current message is now being analyzed by all different directions, and most of the time people say there are three factors. One is Tsai Ing-wen's very strong alliance towards the United States, even in terms of bringing a military type of relationship. The second one is on the Hong Kong arrest. And the third one certainly is on the local Taiwan independence movement. So all three may be the reason behind the current stern warning from mainland China towards Taiwan, especially after Tsai Ing-wen fired 117 arms, and which was unheard of in recent years. However, it is very important that this time around, people's reaction is a bit different. In the past, when mainland China dealt such a strong blow to Taiwan, people have a very strong reaction towards mainland China. But this time, some people felt that it is because the Tsai Ing-wen government hasn't been able to deal with the cross-strait relations. So it's not one way. There are different reactions towards the most recent announcement. And just quickly, people estimated that at the minimum 200,000 visitors, at the maximum about 700,000 visitors will not be coming to Taiwan, and that will be affecting Taiwan's economy by the magnitude of 6 billion NT to 21 billion NT. But more importantly, some business travelers will not be able to come as easily, so it will hurt the business travelers coming to Taiwan as well.
Joanna, let me go back to Guo Taiming, who made most of the money through the prosperity of the semiconductor chips, and the mainland also benefits enormously from such a business cooperation and partnership with Guo Taiming. Now, with the decline in the political trust between the two sides of the Taiwan Strait, with him being some kind of deeply and increasingly involved in the election campaign, what do you make of his dilemma in making the next choice between the Chinese mainland and Taiwan? Because the United States will obviously impose huge pressure on Guo Taiming about the chips and the fifth generation of the wireless communication.
Well, certainly in the very beginning, he has made an announcement that winning or lose, he will not return back to Foxconn or Honghai in Taiwan. So it is very clear that Guo Taiming is trying to find a way out of his CEO-ship. And recently, his two investments in Guangdong is being forced or put on the market. So there are a lot of factors at play. One is Guo Taiming is a symbol of what cross-strait relation is about. And it's also about what mainland China as a huge world factory and world market represent to people worldwide, not only to Taiwan. So when Professor Huang said lots of people understand that Taiwan has to maintain a very strong economic relationship with mainland China, I think it's not just Taiwan, it's people worldwide realize that China is now a very major economic force to be reckoned with. And if you want to address that market, especially in 5G, then you must have a very strong and friendly relationship. Guo Taiming made very strong hostile statements towards mainland China during the time he's running his election. Now he has a chance to correct his own path or to continue what he has chosen. So I think it is a very difficult decision for him at this point, because he made such strong antagonistic statement towards mainland China, and now how is he going back to repatch such a relationship? It's a big challenge.
Professor Huang, what can you tell us about the Han Kuo-yu's opinions on the Taiwanese economy? He's currently trailing behind the Tsai Ing-wen in public opinion polls.
First, I'm not sure that he's trailing behind Tsai Ing-wen, but Han Kuo-yu's line is very clear. Although he said something very tough about one country, two systems, very kind of, even kind of hostile, but still, as Han Kuo-yu knows better than anybody else that only a good relationship across Taiwan Strait can enable him to run a good campaign in the end. If he can win, of course, can run a good economy on the island. I think for that part, I think Han Kuo-yu will stay who he is. That is very pragmatic, very down to earth, and also he really, I think, cares very much. He understands the importance of cross-strait relationship. He's been to mainland. He has said a lot of things that sounds like music to the mainland officials' ears. Although he needs some campaign language in order to keep or win the voters. But I think at the end of the day, Guo Taiming knows what he's doing and knows what he's talking about.
Joanna, very quickly, what's the latest solidarity, if any, within the KMT to support the nomination of Han Kuo-yu and to support his campaign success 1 year from now?
I think overtly, all the major legislative candidates have gone to the bandwagon of Han Kuo-yu, while the party central, the top echelon, may have some second thoughts. But I think at the end of the day, it is blatantly clear that unless you have a strong solidarity, KMT will not be able to oust DPP, will not be able to oust Tsai Ing-wen regime. Therefore, they will be forced to jump into the same bandwagon. And while the legislators have already jumped to Han Kuo-yu's side, that number outnumbered the top echelon.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Richard, let's look at the broad issue of Taiwan in U.S.-China relationship. Do you think President Trump, an embattled President Trump, is prepared to use Taiwan as, you know, the leverage, major source of influence, so that the mainland will have to be given a lesson, other than the latest announcement by the Department of Treasury to accuse China of being a currency manipulator? What do you think of these bargaining chips that President Trump is likely to employ to impose his fire and fury and to use the maximum pressure tactic?
Right. I think that the President Trump appears ready to use these and others, whatever tools are available, to try and pry concessions from the mainland. So Taiwan is clearly an issue. The currency manipulation, the tariffs, the other actions that the U.S. the new defense secretary is now taking in Asia to beef up U.S. defenses. So all these are seen as strengthening the U.S. hand in what I still think the president wants is a new economic deal, a better bargain, if you will, in the economic relationship going forward. With the proviso, of course, that the Trump administration clearly does not want a major military confrontation with China over Taiwan or other issues, and really is trying to maneuver for maximum leverage, but aiming towards a settlement, an agreement.
A few weeks ago, our Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with his American counterpart, Mr. Pompeo, on the sidelines of the ASEAN foreign ministers. And Mr. Pompeo said, Secretary Pompeo said, the United States does not seek to contain China and does not take China as an enemy, although China is regarded by Democrats and Republicans as an adversary and revisionist power. What did Secretary Pompeo actually mean by saying China is not the enemy of the United States?
Well, an enemy is, at least in Washington parlance, is like Al-Qaeda or ISIS, someone you're prepared to use all tools, including military force, to defeat and destroy. With respect to China, there is, as I said, no intent to actually engage in a military operation with China. The objective, as far as I understand the administration, is, as you self-posited, to build up leverage and try and force changes in Chinese policy to which the U.S. objects to, but not through military force, perhaps through some military deployments in the region, economic pressure, and so on. But primarily through, at some point, these talks will reach a resolution on trade and other issues, though it apparently will now take longer than we thought, perhaps not until after the U.S. elections, to see an agreement.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Huang Jing and Joanna, for being with us. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.